The hospital room was quiet, too quiet. Only the soft beep, beep, beep of the heart monitor broke the silence. Chief Olamide Akinyemi, one of Nigeria's richest men, lay on the bed like a statue. His eyes were closed. His lips were slightly parted. His chest rose and fell slowly, like a man sleeping in a deep, endless dream. But this was not normal sleep. This was the kind of sleep that stole months. Outside the room, people whispered, "Will he ever wake up? Maybe it's better if he doesn't. His company is dying like this." Inside the room, one person stood alone. A young maid named Zainab. She was not family. She was not a doctor. She was not important to anyone in that building. But she was the only one who talked to him like he could still hear. Zainab held a wet cloth and gently wiped the billionaire's forehead. Her hands shook. "Good evening, sir," she whispered, like she was greeting him at home. "It's me again." "Zainab." No one answered. The machine continued to beep. Zainab swallowed hard and forced a small smile. "I know you're tired," she said softly. "But please, don't go. Not like this." She reached for the cup on the bedside table and dipped the cloth again. As she wiped his cheek, her eyes moved to the corner of his pillow. There. A small wet line. A tear. Zainab froze. Her heart began to pound. Because she had seen it before. Not once. Not twice. Many times. The doctors said he was in a coma. They said he could not feel anything. They said he could not hear anything. So why did he cry at night? Zainab leaned closer. Her breath caught in her throat. "Sir," she whispered. "Can you hear me?" Nothing. But the tear was real. It slid down slowly, like the man was trapped inside his own body, awake but unable to move. Zainab's fingers tightened around the cloth. Then she heard it. A sound. Not from the machines. Not from the hallway. From under the bed. A soft click, click. Zainab's head snapped down. Her eyes scanned the floor. The room was clean. Everything was in place. The nurses had left only minutes ago. The security guard outside the door was still there. So what was that sound? Zainab bent slowly, her heart racing. She knelt, her knees pressing into the cold tile. The bedskirt hung low, hiding the dark space underneath. She hesitated. Then she pulled the bedskirt aside. And what she saw made her stomach twist. A tiny black device was taped under the bed frame. It blinked once, then blinked again. Zainab stared at it like it was a snake. "What is this?" she whispered. She reached out, careful, and touched it with one finger. It was cold, hard, like metal. The device had a thin wire connected to it running upward. Zainab followed the wire with her eyes. It disappeared behind the mattress, toward the billionaire's body. Zainab's mouth went dry. Her mind raced. Why would anything be wired to him from under the bed? Her hands trembled as she crawled closer. She pushed her head further under the bed, trying to see more. And then she saw something even worse. A small plastic bottle, half hidden behind a wheel of the bed. It had no label, no hospital tag, no nurse's name, just clear liquid inside. Zainab blinked hard, thinking she was imagining it. She pulled the bottle out. Her breath stopped. Because taped to the bottom of the bottle was a folded piece of paper. Zainab's fingers shook as she peeled it off. The paper was stained a little, like someone had handled it many times. She unfolded it slowly, and the words on it made her blood run cold. Add 2 drops to IV line, night shift only, do not let anyone see. Zainab's eyes widened. Her heart slammed like a drum. She looked back at Chief Olamide on the bed. He was still, helpless, silent. Then she looked at the IV line connected to his arm, the one feeding him fluids. Zainab's hand flew to her mouth. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no. This was not a miracle coma. This was something else. Something planned. Something evil." Zainab stood up so fast, her knees almost gave way. She stared around the room like the walls could hear her thoughts. Who put this there? A nurse? A doctor? A family member? Her eyes went to the door. She remembered the visitors from earlier that day. Chief Olamide's older brother, Kunle, had come in wearing expensive clothes and a cold face. He didn't cry. He didn't pray. He didn't even touch his brother's hand. He only asked one question. How long will this take? Then his wife had added in a low voice, "We can't keep paying for a sleeping man forever." Zainab's stomach turned again. Was this about money? Chief Olamide owned houses, companies, lands, and accounts nobody even knew about. If he died, who would control everything? Zainab's hands shook harder. She wanted to run out and scream, but fear grabbed her like a tight rope. Because what if the person behind this was powerful? What if they were watching? Zainab slowly turned her head to the corner of the room. A small security camera was mounted near the ceiling. It blinked. Zainab's body went stiff. Her throat closed. Someone could be watching right now. She quickly folded the paper back and held the bottle tightly. Her mind screamed at her. Take it to the nurse. Call the doctor. Tell someone. But another thought whispered louder. What if the nurse is the one doing it? Zainab's eyes filled with tears. She was just a maid. Poor. Unknown. Easy to silence. If she accused the wrong person, they could throw her out. Or worse. Her breathing became fast and shallow. She rushed to the bedside and leaned close to the billionaire's ear. "Sir," she whispered urgently, voice shaking. "I found something. Someone is doing something to you." The billionaire's face stayed calm. But then, his finger moved. Just a little. A tiny twitch. Zainab froze. Her eyes locked on his hand. It moved again. Not much, but enough. Enough to tell her she wasn't crazy. Enough to tell her someone was inside that body, trapped, fighting. Zainab's tears spilled over. "You're there," she whispered. "You're really there." A sudden knock slammed against the door. Zainab jumped so hard she almost dropped the bottle. The door handle began to turn. A voice called from outside, sharp and impatient. "Who is inside? Open up." Zainab's heart nearly stopped. Because she recognized the voice. It was not a nurse. It was Kunle, Chief Olamide's brother. Zainab's eyes darted to the bottle in her hand, to the note, to the blinking device under the bed, then back to the door that was now shaking from another heavy knock. "Open this door," Kunle shouted again. "Now." Zainab backed away from the bed, panicking. If Kunle came in and saw what she was holding, if he realized she discovered the secret, her knees felt weak. The handle turned again, harder. The lock clicked. Zainab's eyes widened in terror, because the door was about to open, and she had nowhere to hide. The door swung inward. Kunle stepped in, and his eyes went straight to Zainab's hands. Kunle stepped fully into the room and shut the door behind him. The click of the lock sounded louder than thunder to Zainab's ears. For one long second, nobody spoke. Kunle's eyes were sharp, cold. They moved from Zainab's face to her shaking hands. "What is that?" he asked quietly. Zainab's heart slammed against her ribs. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Kunle took a slow step forward. "I asked you a question," he said. "What are you holding?" Zainab's fingers tightened around the small bottle. Her mind raced. If she told the truth, she could die. If she lied, she could still die. She swallowed hard and forced herself to speak. I was just cleaning," she said, her voice thin. "I found it under the bed." Kunle stopped walking. His face did not change, but something dark passed through his eyes, fast, like a shadow. "Under the bed," he repeated. "Yes," Zainab said quickly. "I didn't know what it was. I was going to call a nurse." Kunle stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was dry. Empty. "You maids," he said, shaking his head. "Always touching things you don't understand." He moved closer. Zainab stepped back without thinking. Kunle noticed. His smile faded. "Why are you shaking?" he asked softly. "Did you steal something?" "No," Zainab cried. "I swear I didn't steal anything." Kunle reached out suddenly and grabbed her wrist. Zainab gasped in pain. The bottle almost slipped from her hand. Kunle's grip was tight. "Let go of me," she whispered. He pulled the bottle from her hand and held it up to the light. His eyes narrowed. For the first time, Zainab saw fear on his face. Just for a second. Then it was gone. "You should not be here after visiting hours," Kunle said coldly. "Who told you to stay?" "I always stay late," Zainab replied, her voice trembling. "I clean the room at night." Kunle's jaw tightened. He looked at the billionaire on the bed. Chief Olamide lay still, like a man carved from stone. Kunle leaned over him and spoke softly, almost lovingly. "Still sleeping, little brother," he murmured. "You sleep too much." Zainab felt sick. Kunle turned back to her. "You will forget what you saw tonight," he said. "Do you understand?" Zainab shook her head slowly. "I can't," she whispered. "Someone is hurting him." Kunle's hand came out of nowhere. The sound echoed in the room. Zainab fell back against the wall, her cheek burning. Tears filled her eyes. Kunle stood over her, breathing hard. "You think you know better than doctors?" he snapped. "Than family?" "He is crying at night," Zainab said through tears. "He moves when I talk to him. Someone is keeping him asleep." Kunle's face twisted with anger. "You talk too much," he said, "and talking people don't live long." Zainab's breath caught. Did he really mean that? Before she could respond, the door opened again. A nurse walked in. "What is going on here?" the nurse asked sharply. Kunle stepped away from Zainab at once and changed his face like magic. "She was stealing," he said calmly. "I caught her with this bottle." The nurse frowned and looked at Zainab. "Is that true?" she asked. Zainab opened her mouth to speak. Kunle shot her a warning look. Zainab felt the room spin. If she told the truth now, Kunle would destroy her. If she stayed silent, the billionaire would never wake up. Her heart broke. "No," she whispered. "I wasn't stealing." The nurse sighed. "Zainab, you know hospital rules," she said. "You can't touch medical items." "It is not medical," Zainab cried. "Please, look at the note under it." Kunle's eyes widened for a split second. "What note?" the nurse asked. Zainab realized too late. Kunle had already slipped the paper into his pocket. "There is no note," Kunle said smoothly. "She is lying." The nurse looked between them. "Zainab," she said firmly, "go home. Now, we will talk about this tomorrow." "But," Zainab began. "Now," the nurse repeated. Zainab felt her legs give way. She looked at Chief Olamide one last time. His face was calm. But then, his eyes moved. Just a little. "Enough." Zainab gasped. Kunle saw it too. His face went pale. The billionaire's eyelids fluttered. Then stopped. Kunle's breathing became fast. "Get her out of here," he barked at the nurse. The nurse took Zainab by the arm and led her toward the door. Zainab did not resist. As she passed Kunle, she whispered, so low only he could hear, "I know." Kunle's hand clenched into a fist. Outside the room, the door slammed shut behind her. Zainab stood alone in the hallway, shaking. Tears streamed down her face. She had lost her job. She might lose her life. But she had seen the truth. And she was not going to run. That night, Zainab did not go home. Instead, she went somewhere else. Somewhere dangerous. Somewhere she hoped someone would listen. She pulled out her old phone and dialed a number she had never used before. A number written on a torn poster near the hospital gate. Her finger hovered over the call button. Her heart pounded. Then she pressed it. The phone rang once. Twice. Then a voice answered. "Medical Crimes Unit. Speak." Zainab took a deep breath. "My name is Zainab," she said. "I am a maid. And a billionaire is being kept asleep on purpose." The line went silent. Then the voice said slowly, "Repeat that." Zainab swallowed. Before she could speak again, a hand clamped over her mouth from behind. The phone dropped to the floor. Zainab screamed, but no sound came out. A familiar voice whispered in her ear, "You should have gone home." Zainab was dragged into the darkness as footsteps approached, and the call stayed connected. Zainab kicked and struggled, but the hand over her mouth was strong. Too strong. She could smell cologne. Expensive. Sharp. Kunle. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst out of her chest. "Stop fighting," Kunle whispered close to her ear. "You're making this worse." He dragged her toward a dark corner of the hospital parking area where broken lights flickered and shadows hid secrets. Zainab's phone lay on the ground behind them, the screen glowing. The call was still connected. Kunle didn't notice. Zainab did. She tried to scream again. Kunle tightened his grip. "You really think anyone will believe a maid over a billionaire's family?" he hissed. "You don't know your place." Tears streamed down Zainab's face. She remembered her mother's words from years ago. Even small people can shout loud enough for the truth to hear them. Zainab gathered all the strength in her body and bit Kunle's hand. Hard. Ah! Kunle shouted, jerking back in pain. Zainab fell forward and hit the ground, scraping her palms. She didn't stop. She rolled, scrambled to her feet, and ran. Stop her! Kunle yelled. Footsteps thundered behind her. Zainab ran between parked cars, her chest burning, her legs screaming. Her slippers slipped off, but she didn't look back. She could hear Kunle's breath close behind her. Then, "Hey, what's going on?" A security guard stepped into the light, his torch raised. Kunle froze. Zainab collapsed at the guard's feet, shaking. "He tried to hurt me," she cried. "Please." Kunle forced a smile. "Officer," he said calmly, "this girl is mentally unstable. She was causing trouble inside the hospital." The guard frowned. "Is that true?" he asked Zainab. Zainab shook her head wildly. "No," she said. "He is lying. He is hurting his brother. Someone is keeping him asleep." The guard looked confused. "Kunle Sieghed. You see?" he said. "Nonsense." Before the guard could respond, Zainab remembered the phone. "The phone," she cried. "My call, it was still on." Kunle's eyes widened. "What phone?" he snapped. The guard turned. "What phone?" he asked. Zainab pointed with a shaking finger. "There," she said. "I dropped it when he grabbed me." The guard walked toward the spot. Kunle lunged. Too late. The guard picked up the phone. It was still connected. A voice came through the speaker, clear and calm. "This is the medical crimes unit," the voice said. "We heard everything. Do not disconnect." Kunle's face drained of color. The guard's eyes widened. "Sir," the voice continued, "identify yourself and step away from the woman." Kunle took a step back slowly, his hands raised. "This is a misunderstanding," he said quickly. "My brother is sick. This girl is lying." "Sir," the voice replied, "we traced the call. Officers are already on their way." Kunle's jaw clenched. Zainab stared at him, her whole body shaking. For the first time, he looked scared. Real fear. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the night. Kunle turned and ran. "Stop him!" the guard shouted. But Kunle disappeared into the darkness between the buildings. The guard helped Zainab to her feet. "You're safe now," he said gently. Zainab nodded, but her heart was still racing. Safe. For now. Within minutes, 2 plainclothes officers arrived. They listened as Zainab told her story about the bottle, the note, the device under the bed, the tears at night. They didn't interrupt. They didn't laugh. When she finished, one of them said quietly, "You did the right thing." They went inside the hospital immediately. Zainab waited outside, wrapped in a blanket, her hands shaking. Time passed. Then the doors burst open. A doctor ran out, panic on his face. "Something is wrong," he shouted. "The patient, Chief Olamide. His heart rate is changing." Zainab stood up. "What do you mean?" she asked. The doctor looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "He's responding," the doctor said slowly. "But the IV line, someone tampered with it." Zainab's breath caught. Inside the hospital room, machines beeped faster. Nurses rushed around the bed. An officer held up the small black device Zainab had seen earlier. "This was hidden under the bed," he said. "It was sending signals." "A signal?" a nurse asked. "To delay brain response," the officer replied. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Zainab pressed her hands together and prayed. "Please wake up," she whispered. "Please." Inside the room, Chief Olamide's body suddenly stiffened. The heart monitor beeped wildly. "Clear!" a nurse shouted. Everyone stepped back. The billionaire's chest rose sharply. Then, his eyes flew open. Gasps filled the room. Chief Olamide sucked in air like a man drowning who finally reached the surface. His eyes moved wildly, confused, scared. Zainab rushed forward without thinking. "Sir," she cried, "you're awake." The doctors tried to hold her back, but the billionaire's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Tight. Strong. The click of the gun echoed louder than the silence. Zainab's heart almost stopped. In the darkness, no one could see anything. Only shadows, only fear. Nurses screamed. Someone knocked over a tray. The heart monitor kept beeping, fast and angry. like it knew danger had entered the room. "Everybody down!" a voice shouted. Zainab didn't move. She stood frozen beside the bed, her hand still held tightly by Chief Olamide. His grip was firm, desperate, like she was the only thing keeping him alive. The gun clicked again. "Let go of him," the voice said calmly. "Step away, or she dies first." Zainab's breath caught. She knew that voice. Kunle. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in a dim red glow. And there he was. Kunle stood near the door, gun raised, his face twisted with anger and panic. His expensive suit was rumpled now, sweat shone on his forehead. The calm mask he always wore was gone. Security officers stood on the other side of the room, weapons raised, unsure of what to do. "Kunle," one officer said carefully, "drop the gun." Kunle laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "Drop the gun?" he repeated. "After everything?" He pointed the gun at Zainab. "She should have minded her business," he said. This would have ended quietly. Zainab felt Chief Olamide's hand tighten. "No," the billionaire whispered weakly. "Leave her." Kunle turned sharply toward the bed. "You're not supposed to be awake," he snapped. "You were supposed to sleep until everything was mine." The room went still. Everyone listened. Chief Olamide swallowed, his voice shaking but strong enough to hear. "I heard everything," he said. "Every night, every plan. I couldn't move. But I knew." Kunle's face went pale. "That's impossible," he said. "The doctors sigh. The drug kept my body asleep," Chief Olamide said slowly. "Not my mind." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. All those nights. All those tears. He had been awake inside the darkness the whole time. Kunle's hand trembled. "You don't understand," he said, his voice breaking. "I did this for us. For the family. For yourself," Chief Olamide replied. Kunle's eyes flashed with rage. "You always had everything," he shouted. "The respect. The money. The praise. Even when I was older." He took a step forward. The officers tensed. "Kunle, don't," one of them warned. Kunle ignored them. "I watched you build everything," he continued, his voice rising. "And I stood in your shadow. This was my chance." Zainab felt fear rise again. Kunle's finger tightened on the trigger. Then something unexpected happened. Chief Olamide coughed violently. His grip loosened. The heart monitor beeped wildly. Doctors rushed forward. "His pressure is dropping," a nurse shouted. For a moment, everyone's attention shifted. Kunle saw his chance. He turned toward the door. "If I can't have it," he said coldly, "no one will." He fired. The sound was deafening. Zainab screamed. The glass window shattered, but the bullet did not hit her. A security officer tackled Kunle from the side. The gun flew across the floor. They struggled, crashing into a table, knocking over equipment. "Get him down!" someone shouted. Within seconds, Kunle was pinned to the floor, screaming, fighting, cursing. "You're all fools," he yelled. "He'll still die. I made sure of it." Those words chilled the room. Zainab rushed back to the bedside. "Sir," she cried. "What did he mean?" Chief Olamide's face was pale now. His breathing was weak. "He changed something," he whispered. Before you found the bottle." Doctors moved fast. "We need to flush his system now," one said. "Or we'll lose him." They pushed Zainab gently aside. As they worked, officers dragged Kunle out of the room, still shouting. "This isn't over," he screamed. "You hear me? This isn't over." The doors slammed shut behind him. The room fell quiet again, except for the machines. Zainab stood with her hands clasped, praying silently. Her whole body shook. Minutes passed. Then more. Finally, a doctor turned to her. "We've stabilized him," he said. "But he's still not out of danger." Zainab nodded slowly. Relief and fear mixed inside her. Chief Olamide opened his eyes again, weak but focused. He looked straight at Zainab. "You didn't leave," he whispered. "Even when they tried to scare you." Zainab's lips trembled. "I promised," she said softly. "I promised I wouldn't." His eyes filled with tears. Outside the room, officers spoke quietly, making calls. The hospital buzzed with tension. News had already started spreading. A billionaire poisoned. A brother's betrayal. A maid who spoke up. But danger was not finished yet. As Zainab stepped into the hallway to catch her breath, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A low voice spoke. "You think this ends with Kunle?" The voice said. "You have no idea how deep this goes." The call ended. Zainab stared at the phone, her hands shaking, because she knew one thing now. Kunle was not alone. Zainab slowly turned back toward the hospital room just as alarms began to sound again. His voice came out hoarse, broken, but clear. "Don't let him finish it," he whispered. "He will come back." Zainab's blood ran cold. "Who?" she asked. Chief Olamide's eyes filled with fear. "My brother," he said. "Kunle planned everything." The room went silent. Before anyone could speak again, the lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the room, and in that darkness, a gun clicked. A voice whispered from the shadows, "I told you." No one wakes up. The click of the gun echoed louder than the silence. Zainab's heart almost stopped. In the darkness, no one could see anything, only shadows, only fear. Nurses screamed. Someone knocked over a tray. The heart monitor kept beeping, fast and angry, like it knew danger had entered the room. "Everybody down!" a voice shouted. Zainab didn't move. She stood frozen beside the bed, her hand still held tightly by Chief Olamide. His grip was firm, desperate, like she was the only thing keeping him alive. The gun clicked again. "Let go of him," the voice said calmly. "Step away, or she dies first." Zainab's breath caught. She knew that voice. Kunle. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in a dim red glow. And there he was. Kunle stood near the door, gun raised, his face twisted with anger and panic. His expensive suit was rumpled now. Sweat shone on his forehead. The calm mask he always wore was gone. Security officers stood on the other side of the room, weapons raised, unsure of what to do. "Kunle," one officer said carefully, "drop the gun." Kunle laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "Drop the gun?" he repeated. "After everything?" He pointed the gun at Zainab. "She should have minded her business," he said. "This would have ended quietly." Zainab felt Chief Olamide's hand tighten. "No," the billionaire whispered weakly. "Leave her." Kunle turned sharply toward the bed. "You're not supposed to be awake," he snapped. "You were supposed to sleep until everything was mine." The room went still. Everyone listened. Chief Olamide swallowed, his voice shaking but strong enough to hear. "I heard everything," he said. "Every night. Every plan. I couldn't move. But I knew." Kunle's face went pale. "That's impossible," he said. "The doctors said, the drug kept my body asleep," Chief Olamide said slowly. "Not my mind." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. All those nights. All those tears. He had been awake inside the darkness the whole time. Kunle's hand trembled. "You don't understand," he said, his voice breaking. "I did this for us. For the family. For yourself," Chief Olamide replied. Kunle's eyes flashed with rage. "You always had everything," he shouted. "The respect. The money. The praise. Even when I was older." He took a step forward. The officers tensed. "Kunle, don't," one of them warned. Kunle ignored them. "I watched you build everything," he continued, his voice rising. "And I stood in your shadow. This was my chance." Zainab felt fear rise again. Kunle's finger tightened on the trigger. Then something unexpected happened. Chief Olamide coughed violently. His grip loosened. The heart monitor beeped wildly. Doctors rushed forward. "His pressure is dropping," a nurse shouted. For a moment, everyone's attention shifted. Kunle saw his chance. He turned toward the door. "If I can't have it," he said coldly, "no one will." He fired. The sound was deafening. Zainab screamed. The glass window shattered, but the bullet did not hit her. A security officer tackled Kunle from the side. The gun flew across the floor. They struggled, crashing into a table, knocking over equipment. "Get him down!" someone shouted. Within seconds, Kunle was pinned to the floor, screaming, fighting, cursing. "You're all fools," he yelled. "He'll still die. I made sure of it." Those words chilled the room. Zainab rushed back to the bedside. "Sir," she cried, "what did he mean?" Chief Olamide's face was pale now. His breathing was weak. "He changed something," he whispered. "Before, Before you found the bottle, doctors moved fast. We need to flush his system now, one said, or we'll lose him. They pushed Zainab gently aside. As they worked, officers dragged Kunle out of the room, still shouting. "This isn't over," he screamed. "You hear me? This isn't over." The doors slammed shut behind him. The room fell quiet again, except for the machines. Zainab stood with her hands clasped, praying silently. Her whole body shook. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, a doctor turned to her. "We've stabilized him," he said. "But he's still not out of danger." Zainab nodded slowly. Relief and fear mixed inside her. Chief Olamide opened his eyes again, weak but focused. He looked straight at Zainab. "You didn't leave," he whispered. "Even when they tried to scare you." Zainab's lips trembled. "I promised," she said softly. "I promised I wouldn't." His eyes filled with tears. Outside the room, officers spoke quietly, making calls. The hospital buzzed with tension. News had already started spreading. A billionaire poisoned. A brother's betrayal. A maid who spoke up. But danger was not finished yet. As Zainab stepped into the hallway to catch her breath, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A low voice spoke. "You think this ends with Kunle?" The voice said. "You have no idea how deep this goes." The call ended. Zainab stared at the phone, her hands shaking, because she knew one thing now. Kunle was not alone. Zainab slowly turned back toward the hospital room just as alarms began to sound again. The alarm screamed through the hospital like a warning from the sky. Doctors and nurses ran. "His heart rate is dropping," someone shouted. Zainab's phone slipped from her hand as fear grabbed her chest. She rushed back into the room, her feet moving before her mind could catch up. Chief Olamide lay still again, too still. The machines around him flashed red. The steady times, beep times she had grown used to turned into a fast, angry sound. "No," Zainab whispered. "Please, no." Doctors pushed her back gently. "Give us space," one said. "We're trying to save him." Zainab stumbled back against the wall, her hands shaking, her lips moving in silent prayer. "God, please." Not after everything. Minutes felt like hours. Sweat ran down the doctors' faces. Orders were shouted. Medicine was rushed in. Tubes were changed. The IV line was flushed again and again. Finally, the heart monitor slowed, then steadied. A long, deep breath filled the room. "He's stable," the doctor said at last. We pulled him back. Zainab slid down the wall and sat on the floor, crying softly, not loud, just relief pouring out of her like rain. When she stood again, Chief Olamide's eyes were open. This time they were clear, fully awake. He turned his head slowly and searched the room. His eyes found Zainab. He smiled, a weak smile but real. "Zainab," he said, her name rough but strong enough. She gasped. "Yes, sir," she replied, rushing to his side. "You stayed," he said, "even when it was dangerous." Zainab nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't leave you," she said. "I knew something was wrong." He swallowed. "I heard you," he said softly. "Every day. When you talked, when you prayed, when you told me to wake up." Her heart broke and healed at the same time. "I was trapped," he continued. "I could hear my brother. I could hear plans being made over my body. I tried to fight, but I couldn't move." His eyes darkened. "They wanted me silent, so they could take everything." Zainab lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "You saved my life." Later that day, the truth exploded across the country. The hidden device under the bed. The poisoned IV line. The secret payments to a corrupt nurse who had already run. The recordings from the hospital cameras. Kunle's arrest and his confession when he realized there was no escape. Nigeria watched in shock. A billionaire almost murdered. By his own blood. Saved by a maid no one noticed. Reporters gathered outside the hospital gates. Cameras flashed. Headlines spread like fire. But inside the quiet room, Chief Olamide spoke to only one person. "Zainab, when I get out of here," he said, his voice calm but firm, "everything changes." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean, sir?" He reached for her hand gently. "You didn't treat me like money," he said. "You treated me like a human being. That matters more than anything I own. Days later, Chief Olamide was moved to a private recovery wing. Strong security followed him everywhere now. And Zainab? She was told to come to his office once he was strong enough to sit up. She walked in shaking, wearing her simple dress, her hands folded nervously. Chief Olamide sat behind a desk for the first time in months. He was thinner, weaker, but his eyes were alive. He slid a folder across the desk. "Open it," he said. Zainab opened it slowly. Her breath caught. Inside were documents, school admission papers, a scholarship letter, a new apartment lease, and a contract. Her name was on it. "I don't want you to clean rooms anymore," he said gently. "I want you to help me run the foundation I'm starting, for people whose voices are ignored." Zainab covered her mouth, tears falling freely. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm just a maid." He smiled. "No," he said. "You're the woman who woke a giant." Outside that office, people waited, lawyers, executives, family members who had once called him a burden. But the first person he trusted again was the maid who refused to be silent. And as Zainab stepped out into the sunlight that day, she understood something she would never forget. Kindness may be quiet, but it is never weak. What would you do if the only person who could save a powerful man was the one everyone ignored? If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.